Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and this is actually only my second booktube video. But since I'm still kind of new, I wanted to do a video that would help you guys get to know me and my reading taste a little better. I did the booktube newbie tag, but I think that was kind of more general information, so today I wanted to go through my favorite books from 2019. Now I know we're quite a ways into 2020, almost in April, but better late than never, right? And I figured this list might give you an idea of what I'm interested in and what I like to read. So I do read mostly fantasy, but I do also branch out of that, that genre. So you'll see a lot of fantasy on this list, but a couple other things thrown in there as well. So I'm going to go through top 10, my favorite from 2019, and then I'm going to have some honorable mentions at the end. And then one more thing is, I don't know if you've watched my previous video. If you haven't, I'll link it down below, but I live in Japan, and I've lived here for the past 4 years. So shipping books, English books to myself is not cheap. So I usually either get books from Book Depository when I can. So you'll see a lot of UK editions and stuff here. But I am from America. But I do ship books home to myself from Book Outlet and things like that. If I fall in love with the book and I can find it, I'll ship it to my American house. So hopefully I'll be expanding my physical collection. But there will be quite a few books that are on this list that I don't own because it's not really worth the shipping. It's basically the price of another book. So, but what I do have, of course, I'll show you. So, let's get started. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about, I actually don't have, and that is God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. So I read the Nevernight trilogy last year, a little bit into January for Dark Dawn, and I fell in love with it. I devoured that series. Mia Corvair is just... But I would say my favorite character in the entire series is Ash. Oh my god, my bisexual heart cannot handle how much I love her. So I fell in love with the characters, and I fell in love with the ridiculous flowery writing. Even the footnotes, I just love everything about it. So I did get the Black Sprayed Edges editions that were re-released by Illumicrate, and I did find the matching version of Dark Dawn online, but for shipping for those, they had to go to America. So I will be unboxing those in a later video when I return to America to visit my parents. But for now, unfortunately, I don't have it. But that's definitely top of the list. Love that series. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is Foundryside, which I have here, actually. Foundryside. I picked this up, I'm not gonna lie, it was a cover buy at first. I was actually at home in America, and I was picking up a couple books to bring back with me, and I saw this cover and I was like, this is calling to me, I need this. And then afterwards I looked at the summary and the little blurb on the inside, and it sold me. So, I mean, about a thief who can feel where objects have been, I was intrigued immediately. And I love this book. I devoured this in maybe a day, 2 days. It's not too thick, but yeah, I devoured this. So I am beyond excited for Shorefall coming out. It got delayed, so Robert Jackson Bennett, why are you doing this to me? But when it does come out, it's already on pre-order, so best believe I'm going to be getting this edition, the matching edition for this from Book Depository, because I wanted to read that one physically. It's worth it. So, Foundryside, 100%. I love it. Next, The Lies of Locke Lamora. This is the special edition, the 10th anniversary edition, but I loved this so much that I went online and I found the hardcovers, like the ones that are out of print. Like, I went and found them and shipped them to myself in America because I needed to have those as well. So I actually have, you might be able to see, or maybe not, they're behind my hydrocultures there with the plants, but I have the other two 10th anniversary editions. I've read them all. You can see I tabbed the crap out of this. Locke Lamora is the most lovable bad person that I've ever read about. Like, he's not a good person, but I want him to succeed above all else. And him and Jean's, or Jean, I guess you're supposed to say, his and Jean's, like, friendship is one of the best I've ever read, and I am a sucker for friendships. I love friend groups with banter. If you give me a friend group full of banter, I will automatically give like 2 stars to the book, just because that's one of my favorite concepts, and this book does it so well, and I love it from the bottom of my heart, so this is way up there. Next one I do not have, and that would be The Armored Saint by Mike Cole. I read this, again, when I was in America from the library, and I was just walking around and I thought the cover looked cool, so I said, why not? And it was really short. Again, devoured it, stayed up all night reading it. It's about a main character named Heloise, I believe is how you say her name, or Eloise, and she's kind of forced into a role that she's kind of forced to become the leader in a time of war, and it's a very grim, dark world. If you don't like gore, if you don't like blood, that is not for you. This series is not for you, but I loved that first book so much. I haven't read the other 2 in the series. I did buy one of them and shipped it to myself in America, so I'm hoping to bring that back with me soon. But, and then the third one, The Killing Light, has been released, and I still haven't read that, so I can't wait to, like, dig into those books, but they're probably going to be read, I'm hoping this year is when I get to them. But yeah, The Armored Saint, it's another one, top 10. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the last couple fantasies on here, and it should be no surprise to no one if you see the shelf behind me. I am a Brandon Sanderson fan. I really enjoy all of his stories, and I actually do have the paperback editions of the Stormlight Archive that match these, but they can't fit on my shelf, so that's that. But I have been collecting all of his works over the past 2 years after I discovered him. Just a huge fan. So I read a lot of his works in 2019, so I would say this was so hard to choose, but top 3 from those would actually be the first one. Maybe a little controversial between Sanderson fans, but it's Elantris. I know a lot of people, this isn't one of their favorite works of Sanderson's because it's his first one, and so there are some things about it that are more clunky than his other stories, but I just love Raoden? Obviously I need to listen to the audiobooks because I don't know how to pronounce any of my favorite characters' names, but here we are. I'm gonna say Raoden. I love him. He's just a positive cinnamon bun. He's just a ball of positivity, and he's my favorite. So I love him and Galadon together, because Galadon is just a curmudgeon-y old man, basically, and the two of them together, again, banter. I'm a sucker for it. I loved this book. I enjoyed every second of it. I can understand why it's not people's favorites, because it is a bit slower and there's less action than in his other books, but something about it, I cannot wait to get more in this world. I know Sanderson has said it's not a priority right now, but best believe when it's announced, pre-order that very second. Love this. Okay, so continuing with Sanderson, Oathbringer. This is the third tome in his Stormlight Archives series. I actually started Sanderson with the Stormlight Archive. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I'm very lucky that in Japan, where I live, the library nearby is very well funded, so it actually has a sizable English section, and they'll pretty much order anything that you ask them to, not anything, but most books. So someone else who lives in this area loves fantasy, and they had requested to get Way of Kings, the first one in this series, and I was just browsing the library there, and I was like, oh, this is a thick boy. I like thick boys in fantasy, so I just picked it up, and that was my introduction to Sanderson. So I loved Oathbringer. I read it at the beginning, like right when it came out in 2019, so I don't remember details, but you know, these take a really long time to get through. Usually they take me almost a month and a half to read, but I enjoy every second of it. So, and Stormlight 4, I think they've announced the official name is Rhythm of War, and that's coming out this year. Best believe that's on my pre-order list, so I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And I want to make sure I'm trying to collect the hardcover UK editions. I have Words of Radiance over here, it's hard to see, but so I'm going to be ordering this version, but I cannot find the Way of Kings anywhere, or it's like $600. So if anyone wants to help me out with that, I'm down for a trade. I got some special editions I'd part with to get the Way of Kings in this version. But yeah, top 10 for sure. Okay, and last one with Sanderson is Skyward. This book is a YA sci-fi by Sanderson, and I mean, just look at this edition. Oh my gosh, I knew I had to have it. So I read this in probably a day when I got it, and I'm just recently starting to get into sci-fi and thrillers as well. But this was one of my first forays into sci-fi, which was a really good introduction, I think. So readable, and I never thought that I would enjoy battle scenes with spaceships, but oh boy did I. Like I was into it. So as always, Sanderson's writing is really accessible, and the character growth in this book is done in a phenomenal way. Like sometimes YA characters either don't change at all or they change really quickly at the end and you're like, when did that happen? Not the case with this. She grows very gradually throughout the book, and then in the end when she's becoming a new person, it's really rewarding to see. So yes, huge fan of Skyward. Okay, now we have the last few of my top 10 are not fantasy. I only own one of them, and that one is Not That Bad by Roxane Gay. This is hard to read. As you can see from the top, it says Dispatches from Rape Culture. So it's many women's stories about living with rape culture, and also there are men in here as well, which I think is really important to include them in these kinds of dialogues. But it's hard to read. But as someone who considers herself a very avid feminist, this was key to my education, I think. And I really felt for these people and their struggles. And I cried for sure reading this. This was my first book with Roxane, or by Roxane Gay. I have another one, Difficult Women, that I picked up at a secondhand store. Haven't read it yet, but that's on my list hopefully for 2019. But yeah, this book, trigger warnings obviously for rape and sexual assault and struggles with mental health, but if that's something that you aren't triggered by reading, this one was wonderful. Okay, so the last two I do not own physically, so I'll put a picture, but one of them was Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I'm not a contemporary reader. Clearly I like to read things that are not in our world, usually is what I gravitate towards, but I watch Murphy a lot on here, and I really have similar opinions that like for to her. Words, I can use them. Similar opinions to her on books. And she loves Fredrik Backman, and she recommends him all the time. And similar to Not That Bad, stories about rape culture really, I think, are important for people to read and understand each other's stories. So because Beartown is based around that kind of concept, I decided to pick that up first by him. Blew me away. I'm not surprised that, you know, Murphy's recommendations were on point for me, but I listened to the audiobook and I could not stop. Like, I was listening to it in my headphones and I would make reaction noises, no, or I would cry, and my boyfriend would be like, are you okay? Like, do you need, like, can I give you a hug or something? So that book really got to me, in a good way. And the ending of that was just chef's kiss. So I definitely want to read more by Fredrik Backman. I think audiobooks are going to be the way to go for that, and then if they show up on, you know, Book Outlet or somewhere where I can get them and ship them to America, I would love to, like, build a collection of his works if I like his other books as much as Beartown, because that was really good. The last one is a thriller, the last one for my top 10, and that is The Wife Between Us by, oh, what a horrible booktuber I am, I don't remember who it's by. Let me cheat. Greer Hendricks and Sarah Peckman. That I recently got into thrillers maybe last year is when I really started, and I've been using them audiobook wise. I've been listening to them as audiobooks. I'm struggling, aren't I? I've been listening to them as audiobooks, and I usually listen to them when I ride my bike to and from work. I mentioned in my newbie tag that I ride my bike a lot in Japan, so audiobooks are just wonderful for that. Although thrillers when you're biking alone at night, not the best choice. I'm just putting that out there, but The Wife Between Us was, I think I read it shortly after it came out, and as someone who's new to thrillers, maybe the twists weren't as shocking for other people, but for me I was like, whoa, what is this? So it really made an impression on me, and the twist really got me in that. So I would put that in my top 10 as well. I don't like to talk about the story of thrillers much because I feel like anything is kind of a giveaway, so you can go in blind, but I just really loved the twists and the turns and the storyline of that. It was solid. Okay, so now I have a couple honorable mentions. I don't have a lot of these physically, but there are two here that I do have. The first one is actually a manga. So the name of this manga is Hanazakari no Kimitachi e, or Hanakimi for short. This is actually kind of an old manga. These are the collector's editions, so they look a little different from the original ones. But this is, I read this for the first time maybe when I was in middle school. And in Japan, manga's very cheap, you can imagine, much cheaper than in America. And so I decided last year to give it a shot to start reading it in Japanese. So I have the whole collection behind me. I haven't finished yet, but reading it has reminded me, like, how much I love this story. It's a romance, but it's kind of like a slice of life comedy romance where this girl here, she pretends to be a boy in order to get into an all-boys school for reasons. If you want to find out, you can. And then of course she falls in love with a guy who thinks she's a guy. And it's just a lot of comedy in there, and this main character is so lovable. I am not a big romance reader in like normal novels. I do enjoy them sometimes, don't get me wrong, but I don't usually pick them up. But for some reason, manga, I love romance manga. I just think it's so cute, like shoujo, cutesy manga. I just really like it. So I would highly recommend this series. I know they have it in English in America, and I'm assuming in other countries. But if you want something cute and heartwarming, this one is where it's at. Next, will probably not be a surprise because I think this is on a lot of people's best ofs lists, but another honorable mention would be Becoming by Michelle Obama. If you were to ask me who my hero in this world is, this woman. She is just so incredibly driven and talented and has such a big heart. And I really admire that everywhere she goes, she starts something. She's always looking to bring something new to wherever she is and push herself. And I always loved her, but after reading this, my respect grew 10 times, if that was even possible. So I loved this book, and I recommend it to anyone. There's a lot of really good lessons in here. It was mixed audio and physical, so there's not so many tabs. There's a couple tabs, but if I had read it just physical, there'd be tabs all over this thing. So yes, Becoming by Michelle Obama. Honorable mention. Okay, the next couple I don't have physically with me, but one of them would be In an Absent Dream by Seanan McGuire. I love the Wayward Children series. I've done them all on audiobook and then pick them up whenever they're available and ship them to America. I love the way that the audiobooks are read. I don't know the audiobook person's name because I'm horrible, but I love the way that they're read, and it just immerses me in the world so fully. So this year I read In an Absent Dream. If I'm comparing that to the other ones in the series, I would say Down Among the Sticks and Bones and Every Heart a Doorway, the first two, are the ones that just like I felt so deep inside in my heart. But In an Absent Dream wasn't as close for me, but I still really enjoyed the atmosphere and learning about Lundy's story. So I really did enjoy it. But yeah, honorable mention. Next is A Spark of Light by Jodi Picoult. I'm so sorry. But it's a story about, it's set in our world again, so I wouldn't call it, I guess it's contemporary, or it's just fiction, adult fiction. And it's the story about a girl, well, multiple women who go to get abortions, and then a man comes to the abortion clinic and shoots it up, and as like a kind of in a rage. And it's the story of all the people who are involved in this situation from many different perspectives. From the man who started shooting everyone, to his daughter, to the people there to get an abortion, to the people there protesting abortions. And I just thought it was really well done. All of the different storylines were given care. Again, like I mentioned with Not That Bad, I think it really helps broaden your mind to other perspectives, and I think it's really important when you want to have a conversation with someone. So it's not a light read, but I would recommend it. I really enjoyed it, so it's definitely on the honorable mentions. Okay, the next one is a thriller, and that one is The Woman in the Window. And I know that the author of this book has had some controversy around him, but I am one of those people who believe that the art could be separate from the person. Now, it can be case by case. I'm open to that discussion. We can have it in the comments below if you want. But, you know, like Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling has not been at her best form in the past couple of years, but my love for that series isn't going to decrease because of her. So, if I look at The Woman in the Window just as the story that it is, I really, really enjoyed it. The process of trying to figure out who's believable and who's not. I know a lot of people are over the trope of an unreliable, like, female narrator who no one believes, but again, I'm new to thrillers, so that's still kind of a fresh trope for me, and I really enjoyed his use of it. And the twist at the end was what it got me. So I just really, really enjoyed the process of figuring that out throughout the book. So that's definitely an honorable mention for me. And the last one is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Yes, I'll get better at that, I promise. By Margaret Rogerson. Again, I usually read adult fantasy, but YA fantasy is still, I have nothing against it. And I went into this book thinking that I would maybe like it a little bit. No, I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved books being like gray characters, being good or bad or somewhere in between. And I really enjoyed the romance aspect of this book as well. So everything about it was so fun, and I read it really quickly. So I don't have it physically, but that's one that I would consider grabbing in the future if I saw it for cheap, because the ride was so fun, and I was in the mood for that type of book. Okay, so that is the list of all my top books from 2019, along with some honorable mentions. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into what I like to read and where I'm at right now in my life reading-wise. I really look forward to making specific book review videos or, you know, wrap-ups at the end of the month, because this is my first time being able to talk about the books that I love so freely, and I just can't wait to continue doing it. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if you liked them, if you didn't like them, why or why not. You know, we are all entitled to our opinions, so just because these are my favorite books doesn't mean that everyone loves them. So just go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what's up. And I look forward to making another video soon. But for now, I'll talk to you guys later. Ja ne! Bye bye!